Oh yeah. All right, I have a pretty loud voice anyway, so I'll try to tame it down a little bit. Welcome to everyone who came to this event. We don't get to do these as often as we like, and I met you guys outside in the hallway and I was telling what a miracle it is, really. Hopefully today we can kind of paint that picture for you guys. My name is Philip Durham. I'm the EMS Operations Battalion Chief for Fairfax County Fire and Rescue. The fire department and our partners from the Department of Public Safety, or the Safety Communications, so that's the 911 call center, are happy to have everyone here to celebrate Joe Thiringer and his family, a cardiac arrest survivor, and honored Nova Parks for their investment in public safety. Nova Parks, raise your hand. Okay. He might not have realized how important the AED was, and it really was important in this case. Last year, we had responded to 601 cardiac arrests. 102 of those happened in a public place. A little more than half of those public places had CPRs that had a citizen engage and start CPR early, and only 9% of those cases was an AED deployed. That's part of the miracle that I speak of. Bystander CPR and AEDs are critical links to the chain of survival and happen before EMS arrive on scene. Bystanders and well-placed AEDs are what save lives and part of that miracle. Approximately 300,000 cardiac arrests happen out of hospital every year in the US. Only 8% of those people survive. The first few minutes of arrest are what we call the chain of survival. And that chain of survival is what leads to positive outcomes. In this case, the chain of survival has 5 different things. Rapid recognition and activation of EMS via 911. Not sure if anyone from the scene is here today that called 911. Okay. So the fact that someone recognized it was an emergency and called 911 was huge. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 was CPR started quickly. So those bystanders, I'm not sure if they were certified in CPR or not, but luckily, part of FRD of fire, we have Department of Public Safety and Communications. This lady right here, Colleen, raise your hand. She was a call taker that walked the citizen through how to do CPR. From 10 minutes, I believe, it was 10 minutes. And just to show you how rare of a miracle this is, to kind of put into perspective, this is the first call in Colleen's 10 years that has been positive. So she was obviously super excited to take pictures with you guys. This is the stuff that we live for. This is why we do what we do. All right, and then number 3, early use of the AED. So Nova Parks, raise your hand. That guy made sure that he had an AED available, and that AED was used to shock Joe. Number 4 is rapid delivery of ALS, or Advanced Life Support Service, from EMS. All my firefighters that were on the call, raise your hand. Okay, so those people were another link in your chain of survival. And then finally, early post-resuscitative care, you guys got ROSC on him, which means return of spontaneous circulation, and they were able to continue his care until they got him to the hospital. So all of those things had to line up just right for Joe to survive that day. For this story, I'm going to introduce Deputy Fire Chief Mark Kordowski. He was the EMS Deputy Chief during this time, and he's going to have a couple words for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Durham. Joe, on July 27th, 2022, you were at work at Meadowlark Park when you experienced your event. It was the quick thinking of your co-workers that actually started the whole chain of survival process. They called for help. Someone made the 911 call. Someone went and grabbed the AED, okay? It was during this time that they continued doing chest compressions. The AED then signaled as shock advised. They shocked you one time prior to our crews arriving. Once our crews arrived on scene, they continued CPR. You were doing excellent. Your end-tidal CO2 started to come up, and pretty soon you had the ROSC that we talk about. You had a pulse. I'm not sure if you were breathing on your own or if they were still assisting you. When we brought you to Reston Hospital, we brought you there with a pulse. The crews worked excellently. It's teamwork that brings people back, starting from the bystander all the way up to the crews arriving and then the hospital staff. Okay? I wanted to thank the parks person as well. Chief Durham is right. Your efforts to put the AEDs at your locations is what saves lives. Joe, at this time, come on up. I'm going to present you with a challenge coin, okay? The challenge coin actually originated from the military. It's pride in each individual unit, depending on the service, or pride in the squadrons. In the fire department, it symbolizes pride in their stations, pride amongst the personnel. But what it really symbolizes is that you carry a challenge coin. This challenge coin represents a brother and sisterhood, that at your roughest times, you have a support system. You are gonna have a support system, okay? Doesn't mean you can't stop into a fire station. Doesn't mean you can't talk to us. Doesn't mean you can't thank us. You can't become one of us. I want you to take this as a remembrance of everything that has happened. You were theoretically supported by the fire department, okay? Okay. All right. I'm going to turn it over to Joe's parents for some remarks.
Is this working for me?
Yeah, it's working for you.
Joe, Pete, and I want to thank you for being here. Our two other children, Melissa and Steve, could not be with us today, but they're with us in spirit. On July 27th, I was driving through Vienna, returning from lunch with my mother and sister, and heading to meet our daughter at home. When I received the call from Meadowlark, it was hard to process. Joe had been found unconscious and was being taken by ambulance to Reston Hospital. And my initial reaction was that Joe suffers from POTS, which causes him to get up and get dizzy and, well, fall over. But I was told there was no more information. So I phoned my husband, Pete, texted our daughter to notify our other son, and we raced to the hospital. Upon arrival, there was confusion as to where Joe actually was. His lack of identification placed him as a John Doe, unbeknownst to us. They couldn't seem to find him. I called back Meadowlark to ask if I was in the right place. And my mother's intuition led me to ask, were they doing CPR on him? And the answer was yes. And at the time, those were not the words that I wanted to hear, because I knew exactly what that meant. Over the course of 5 weeks, Joe battled broken ribs, pneumonia, intubation twice, an NG tube, a PEG tube, tracheostomy, EEGs, MRIs, and CTs of his brain and his heart. He celebrated his 20th birthday while still sedated. We withdrew him from college temporarily. We waited for 2 weeks for him to follow a command. Finally, Joe, give me a thumbs up. As we walked this journey for the last 6 months, we've come to realize how blessed we are and how fortunate Joe was. But it wasn't luck. It was preparedness. It was unimaginable inner strength for some and years of training for others. Over the course of Joe's hospital stay, we heard from many a doctor about how amazing the CPR done on him must have been. Joe was alone when he experienced sudden cardiac arrest and had possibly been down a considerable amount of time. So the fact that he is here with us now is testament to the exceptional CPR and AED which were administered. We're thankful to Meadowlark for not hesitating. We know the statistics and we've read the percentages. And we're thankful to Fairfax County Fire and Rescue because we know their training increased those statistics and kept our son alive. On October 21st, Pete and I unfortunately experienced it for ourselves when Joe suffered another cardiac arrest in our home. After months of being level-headed and persevering and oddly staying calm throughout, I fell apart, and I was not prepared. Thankfully, his ICD did what it was supposed to do, and he was saved again. We have many people to thank. We visited the doctors at the Reston ER, who resuscitated him a second time after he arrived. We visited the doctors at Reston ICU, who used new technology to keep his temperature down and his brain cool. They were so hopeful, even when after 10 days, Joe still hadn't spoken a word or responded to a command. We're thankful for the doctors at Fairfax Hospital, who try as they might, still can't figure out why this happened in the first place. But through their patience and perseverance, and a second hospitalization for Joe in October, they've tried a few things that hopefully will keep this from happening again. And we're thankful for Joe's therapists who've taught us a lot about brain injury, and we're amazed at the progress that he's made. I could go on to thank the PAs, the nurses, the techs, the cafeteria workers, the cleaning crews, all in the village that brought Joe back home to us. And now we thank you. To Nova Parks, Meadowlark is home to Joe. His Eagle Scout project bridges a path in the Lake Nina section of the Virginia wetlands area. And he was thrilled to get a summer job working in a place so close to our home and so familiar to him. Derek, you have trained your employees well. Joe, Pete, and I have said as much to them personally. And to the dispatchers, Colleen, we still don't know the details of everything that happened that day, but we think it's safe to assume that you played an integral role in helping those at Meadowlark stay calm and administer CPR and AED, all while sending help to them. And to Fairfax County Fire and Rescue, we meet again. The first time in Reston ER, where we know you greeted Pete and me and our children, Melissa and Steve, calmly explaining the course of events. As you can imagine, our hearts were there, but our minds were elsewhere. We so appreciate you being here so that now, with clear minds and forever grateful hearts, we can say thank you again. Thank you for what you do so well. We're fairly private people. We don't document each day of our lives on social media. And as you can see, we have no pictures of Joe in the early days, the dark days we call them, of recovery. Pictures for people of our generation are for celebrating, and we just didn't want to celebrate that. But we did journal on Caring Bridge as a way of keeping family and friends updated, and it's a public journal, and you're welcome to read more about Joe's story there. We kept this reunion private for a lot of reasons, mostly for Joe, and we acknowledge that there's trauma associated with this event. Trauma for those that run to aid, for family, and of course for Joe, and we're ready to move on. However, we will not be private or quiet about the need for CPR and AED training. Be reassured, we're going to share the hands-on only CPR event, all that we know. And now when I hear CPR and AED, though triggering for sure, I have a whole new perspective. We all do. We appreciate the time you took from your busy day to be with us. Thank you all for your preparedness, your perseverance, and mostly for your dedication to a career that serves.
Thank you.
My wife is much more eloquent than I, so I won't add anything other than just my thanks. Thank you.
We also want to recognize Nova Parks. Nova Parks is the regional park system with locations in Arlington, Fairfax, and Loudoun County. Though not required, Nova Parks has AEDs in their facilities, which is a true commitment to public safety. Having the equipment is the first step. Nova Parks took it to the next step and has started to train their employees. We are here today because their employees did an exceptional job. The staff at Meadow Parks had an exemplary response. And at this time, I want to introduce Mr. Bolton, the risk manager with Nova Parks. Mr. Bolton, I'm going to present you the special recognition plaque in honor of your commitment to the public safety.
Nova Parks, back in 2008, sat down and conferred with a number of their local EMS stations about emergency response in the parks. The overwhelming sense that we got from those stations and their crews was get an AED on site. Some of our locations that we have can be as far away as 8, 9, 10 minutes from the closest station, and then depending on where the individual is in the park, whether they're in the woods on a trail or on a golf course, it could be another 8, 9, 10 minutes before we can get an EMS crew to their side. So following the advice of the EMS stations and recognizing that Nova Parks has anywhere from 350 to 1,000 employees depending on the season of just our own team, as well as close to 2 million guest visitations throughout the park system every year, it was a no-brainer. We just wanted to make sure in a situation similar to Joe's that we were able to at least give that individual a chance. So the Park Authority went ahead, made the investment in the AEDs, and never looked back. Once we had the AEDs in place, we then had a mass training effort to make sure all of our frontline staff were certified in first aid, CPR, AED use. And from that time moving on to today, we continue that training. And in some cases, like with our water parks, go above and beyond that with our aquatic safety program as well. It's one of those things where you make the investment to bring them on site, to have them there, to see them every day, kind of provides a little bit of comfort seeing it, but you hope you never use it. And on July 27, 2022, we had to use it. And it was tough on our team members that day, obviously, not just the stress of an emergency situation, but seeing one of their own, one of their coworkers, one of their team members that they are with every day, young, strapping gentlemen. And staff didn't really, once they discovered the emergency, they didn't really think much. They just reacted. And that's what we try to get out of the training program with them, is just a reaction. Unfortunately, after everything is done, that's when they start thinking. And some of them, unfortunately, are still having a little bit of trouble with the situation, and it scared them. It was very scary. But they reacted. We're very proud of them. And most of, importantly, seeing Joe here today. When I saw Joe when I walked into the building today, I mean, that was like the real moment for me, seeing Joe standing there before me and just thinking, wow, all that equipment, training, effort, it works. It works. So we encourage other businesses and entities throughout the region to go ahead and make that investment. It's a no-brainer in our opinions. And I also would like to thank, just as Joe's mom did, all of our EMS stations throughout the region. You guys out there near Meadowlark that responded. I mean, yeah, we caught them, we got them shocked, but you guys, the transport and care you provided to Reston was unbelievable, and we're lucky in this region to have the resource of your expertise. And Joe, again, I am just so happy that you're here with your family today, and I couldn't ask for anything more, and it just furthers my resolve to continue keeping up with technology and training in the parks and trying to make our places as safe and as enjoyable for families as possible. Thank you so much.
Finally, I'd be remiss without recognizing our full public safety team. I've had the privilege as a UFO to work with our dispatchers over at DPSC, who are the frontline call takers. Essentially, they are the calm to the storm, to the crews that responded. I've had the opportunity to work with many of you or alongside with many of you. The EMTs and paramedics and firefighters make this happen every day. I'd like you guys to stand. DPSC, firefighters, paramedics. Lorraine, you can stand too. It is with a heartfelt thank you and a proud member of the team to work alongside of you. You guys make this happen every day, and it goes appreciated. So I thank you. I know Joe's family thanks you. Keep doing the exemplary work you do. Be the calm to that storm. Render the care that you do, and we will continue to move forward. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand it back over to Chief Durham for some closing remarks.
Yeah, obviously this is a miracle, like I was saying when I saw you at the top of the stairs, and I hope that all of us take it in what a big miracle it really was. And each one of us, I guarantee, just listening to people talk, that you think that your part really wasn't that important, that maybe you're just a little bit. Honestly, each part was so important. So please let that resonate in your heart, that it really is an important thing that you did today. And when something negative happens and you start thinking anything bad that's happening out in the world, I hope that you recall this moment and bring it back to, wow, it was amazing to be part of this. I was listening to Mrs. Thiringer's amazing speech. Honestly, I think, I don't know if you do that for a job, but I was thinking, dang, man, I might have to hang out with her for some coffee. But three of the words that you used really stuck in my mind. I was trying to pay attention as much as possible and be present in this moment, because all of us have all our connection and devices and social media, and this is really important time to pay attention. And three words stuck out in my mind that you used. Private. I appreciate that. I was thinking how many of these things that the fire department, DPSC has run, and we have no idea what happens. We can try our best to follow up and say, hey, what happened to that guy, especially since you were 19 at the time. But sometimes we don't get that follow-up. So I appreciate the fact that while you guys are obviously very private, that you're willing to come to this event and share your story, because it really means a lot to us. And it also focuses that message back to us that what we do is important. Number two, the second word. So first word was private. Second word that I heard was trauma. We don't talk about it enough in today's society. There is a lot of trauma going on, not just physically, but mentally. And I think it's really important for all of us, everyone in the room, not just the people that are part of this Chain of Survival event, but to take heed the fact that we need mental health, and that seeking guidance from a licensed therapist is great if you can do that. I know personally I like to share that I see one monthly, because I think it's important for people to take that ownership. It's not embarrassing, it helps me. But if you're not willing to see a therapist, hopefully you get some good friends or family that you can talk about this stuff with, because it's important to talk out. So it's a trauma. But the last thing I heard, and I like to always try to put a positive thing on things, you said perspective. And I like to end this event thinking about the perspective that the miracle that we all were able to take part of. It's amazing that even though we went through this trauma, you guys went through this trauma, and every day call takers and firefighters see these traumas. It is amazing that we can be part of that type of miracle. So I like to try to keep my positive thought for all of you guys that, hey, this really was a miracle. With that, this is my closing remark, and I'm so glad to hear you guys are so excited about CPR and AEDs and the need for them. We like to encourage and educate our community. There's an open house, hands-only CPR event Thursday, February 2nd. Hopefully our PIO over there recording me, so graciously we'll put that out. It's at Vienna Fire Station. It's a free event open to the public. Come at any time, at any window. There's no registration required. We want to make it as easy as possible. The whole cycle takes less than 30 minutes. So anyone here that has a friend that lives close to Vienna Firehouse, please take that time. Tell your friends to go, because part of the miracle. All right, thanks for everyone for coming. We're going to take some photos afterwards.
Yeah,
And again,
before the
appreciate your time.